I'm Brian Goodman. I'm the Senior Marketing Games Manager at NetherRealm Studios.
So, Ryan, what are you showing new here at GDC with Injustice 2?
Well, we are showing off a portion of Chapter 1 of our story mode, which we're excited, and we are also revealing a new character to the roster, Dr. Fate.
So, what does Dr. Fate bring to the Injustice roster?
Well, he's a powerful sorcerer, so definitely a very unique fighting style in terms of the way that he can sort of hang back and use his magic to create destruction for his opponents.
So, talk about the story mode. What do you have here playable for the first time?
What we're looking at is a portion of Chapter 1. This is obviously sort of the introduction to the story campaign. We're taking a look at Batman and sort of the immediate aftermath of the events of the first Injustice, and it sets the stage for how things are going to unfold for the rest of the story.
So, you kind of elaborated more on your gear system to the game. That's really unique. Kind of go into more detail about that.
Sure, yeah. The gear system is something that we implemented with Injustice 2 that is really an unlimited reward system for our players. It's giving our players the opportunity to customize both the visual look of all of the characters in the game, as well as how they play and how players can approach each fight with those characters.
So, talk about it's not only a visual aesthetic, there's also attributes that they add to each of your characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Gear, as it's dropped throughout the game, comes with stats, comes with new abilities. So as you gear up and put these equipment pieces on your character, you're actually giving them increased stats, things that will affect how powerful their offensive attacks are, how much damage they can take. You can also add new abilities with the gear, meaning that you can actually add to or replace some of your special attacks that you employ for each character. So it is really about sort of powering up these characters and giving players the opportunity to customize, kind of, or I would say enhance how they can approach each fight with each character.
And from a gameplay mechanic wise, how does that affect the internal balance of the game that everyone can do that to their each fighter?
It's an interesting question. The gear obviously is going to give you advantages in certain areas of gameplay in terms of making characters more powerful than they are when you first start the game, being able to take on more damage or have more health, things like that. So I would say in more casual play, it is an opportunity to gain an edge over your opponent in terms of how you sort of choose to enhance that character. We do have modes in the game where we do account for people who want to play sort of at a base level. We have a what we call a tournament mode where you're going to be playing sort of a perfectly balanced fighting game so that you are playing like to like, where you can carry over the visuals of the gear system, so you can kind of show off how you've customized the look of the character that you love playing, but you're going to be playing on an even playing field with your opponent.
So in like a competitive atmosphere like EVO, you would have the tournament mode basically. People can have the look of their character, but not the special custom moves or the added attributes from the gear system.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have seen that the competitive scene, tournament scene within fighting games, people have really started gravitating towards NetherRealm games, and we wanted to account for that. So we absolutely have the functionality in the game so that players can play on an even playing field at tournaments.
So the character roster is probably the most difficult thing to decide in a fighting game, also the most user feedback thing in a fighting game. Can you talk about how you guys go and decide in the process of what's going to be put in your game, what you want to put in the game, to finally putting it into the game?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's a huge process and it's a lengthy process. It takes a lot of creative minds working together. It comes down to what is going to serve our story mode, what types of fighters we want to create, working with our partner at DC, listening to our fans, listening to the community, and all of those factors sort of taken together. There's a lot of a debate internally on sort of what is the best route to go. So it is like you said, one of the more challenging parts of this process, but a very rewarding one as well, because we get to create a lot of cool fighters out of that system.
And what has NetherRealm Studios learned from the first Injustice that you're applying and improving in Injustice 2?
Oh, wow. There's a lot and covers a lot of different areas of the game. We've learned things in terms of gameplay, in terms of accessibility, and creating things that make the game more user-friendly in terms of sort of how you can load out the gear system, some of our tutorial and training modes, things that we are building so that giving players a lot more accessibility, and then digging deeper. There's all kinds of subtle things and nuances that we've sort of gained from listening to our community and talking about sort of how they experience the game, how they approach the game, things that are going to manifest themselves in UI and carrying people through the experience and just making it as user-friendly as possible and making sure that what we're highlighting is sort of the fun and enjoyment and knocking down as many roadblocks as we can to that.
Yeah, elaborating more on that, fighting games are a hard genre to have a casual gamer break into, especially AAA fighting games, because those are very rare even in today's gaming space. What are some of the challenges when taking someone who's never played a fighter so they can pick up Injustice 2 and just instantly understand it?
Yeah, it's a great question. That is something that at NetherRealm Studios we're very cognizant of. Making sure that our games serve a number of different types of players. Obviously, we want to have a game that has a ton of depth for people who are very serious about fighting games. But obviously, we have a ton of fans of our games who might not be at that sort of tournament caliber level. So we're looking to build things into the game that are going to be very enjoyable for them. Obviously, story mode is one way that we sort of account for creating a great single-player experience where you can come into the game, you can fight with a ton of different characters throughout story mode and really experience a great story. I mean, it's a wonderful cinematic experience that we're able to create working in partnership with DC. And as I mentioned before, practice modes and tutorials that give players opportunities to practice and really beef up their skill set as they go through this, and trying to create a really great breadth of single-player content so that the onus of being the most skilled player and having to take that into a multiplayer environment is kind of off your shoulders, and you can go in and, if you're more of a beginner or more of a casual player, still find a ton of stuff to have a really great time with this game without worrying about whether or not you stand up against those folks who might be more of a hardcore fighting game player.
Can you guys talk about your relationship with DC and what they provide you in terms of assets as well as feedback on the characters you want in, or the fighting moves you want in, or just general naming things like the mother boxes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very close and very good relationship. They've been incredibly supportive, both in terms of giving us guidance and sort of having conversations with us about which characters that they think would fit well in our story, giving us feedback on our storyline in general, but also giving us a lot of room to really create and iterate within this universe that we've developed with them. So it's been a great working relationship.
Will we see you guys at EVO this year?
Yeah, that was announced. We are actually going to be at EVO with Injustice 2. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. When does Injustice 2 come out?
Injustice 2 is going to come out May 16th, 2017 in North America, May 18th, 2017 in Europe.